Hi everybody, Fara Gibson, Psychic Medium, and I just wanted to take the time to make yet another video because I feel like the more that we know, the less we fear. And today I want to talk to you about tragedy passings. I have done a lot of readings over the years as a medium for people who have passed in so very many different ways. And I think that one of the biggest questions for one of my clients will be when we're walking through a tragedy passing is, are they happy? Have they found peace? Are they okay? Did it hurt? I mean, there's so many different things that people ask, and I like to talk about the honest things. Again, with these videos, I do kind of have to go back a ways first before I can really talk about the tragedy that took their life, because I like to give you the foundation behind it. And then once I give you the foundation behind it, we can kind of flash forward to talking about those tragedies. So as we exist in heaven, long before we ever come here, we sit around in heaven with those that we are going to spend our life with our dynamic with, our loved ones that we're going to share family ties with, our loved ones that we're going to share love ties with, our friends, our acquaintances, our bosses. All of those people are in heaven with us, and we know each and every one of them for an eternity, honestly, long before this life ever came to be about, and we'll know them for an eternity still. And so this body that I am driving around, I've referred to it as a car, and my spirit is the driver. But my spirit driver existed in heaven with the other drivers of their cars long before any of us ever came here to live in this lifetime together. I first have to say that you're pretty damn amazing that you're living a life, because not every spirit chooses to do so. But we're going to go back just a ways, right? So as we're sitting in heaven and we're sitting around in this circle, we're writing our family dynamic, we're writing our ups and downs, we're writing imperfections on purpose, because our growth lies within our imperfections. And so for that reason, life is never going to be perfect, folks. And it's not meant to be. And the strongest spirits write the most difficult journeys. So keep that in mind when you really feel defeated by your days. And just pat yourself on the back for me, please. But then as we write these obstacles and we write these ups and downs, somebody in our circle has to write to be that challenge for us, or meet us at that obstacle, to be the one that makes that moment possible for us as well. And this is where it's going to be really tough for you to wrap your head around things, but I'm going to explain it in a few different ways, and then maybe it'll make a little bit of sense. So let's say that I want to write a journey to grow my family in ways that they would have never grown, because I'm going to graduate first. And that's what I'm telling them in my family dynamic. I'm going first. I'm going back to heaven first. So I'm going to grow the fastest, and then I'm going to go back to heaven first. And they're like, what do you got? What are you going for? And I'm like, man, you know what? I'm not going to go for the cancer route. I'm thinking I don't really want to do that. I'm thinking something like pretty exciting and epic. And I'm thinking maybe a car accident. Ooh, car accident. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like something exciting for me, and it's fitting for me. And then I'm just here one second and back in heaven the next. It's going to be great, and your family's sitting around going, oh, she says she's going in a car accident. Somebody's walking behind me in heaven going, did you say you're going to go in a car accident? Yeah, that's what I said. I'm writing it right here, writing it on my blueprint. I'm going to go pass in a car accident. And you know what? It's going to be a drunk driver that takes me out. That person's still standing there saying, did you say that it was going to be a drunk driver? Yeah, drunk driver. Gonna take me out. I'm going to graduate. It's going to grow all these people in my family in ways they never would have grown if I hadn't graduated first. That person's still standing there, and they're saying, can I bless you? Can you bless me? Yeah, because that person's telling me now, I want to live a life and know what it is to have to live with the repercussions of being a drunk driver and taking a life, and live the repercussions of going to prison for that, and have to live with that karmic energy for the rest of that lifetime. And I'll do that for you. I'll do that for your family. And I go, wow, man, thanks. High five, see you there. High five, see you there. And then we come to live this life, and we live this life with this perfect family dynamic, and everything's amazing, and I'm growing through life, and I'm growing through life. And then here comes my accident, and it happens. And this drunk driver just takes me out. Just like I said, actually, in my blueprint, nobody in my circle was bigger than my blueprint. They couldn't change that moment. It was my blessing to them. It's my blessing for their growth. And the person who hit me is somebody that I wrote this moment with long before I ever came to this world to live this life. And oh man, to be in the perfection of heaven and live a life that you're writing, to live such a difficult life, to maybe have like this super terrible addiction to alcohol, so bad that we can't even live without it long enough to drive home. And now they've taken a life, and now they just feel terrible because they have to live with that, because they've sobered up now that they're in custody and they're living in jail for X amount of years, or maybe even sometimes their entire life. And they're doing all of that in honor of their love for you and their love for the growth of your family. Now, that's the spirit side of things. The human side of things, fuck that guy. Are you kidding me? That guy was drunk, got on the fucking road. Are you kidding me? There's so many different options he could have taken on a human sense to get home that day, to not drink that day. There's so many things that he could have done, but the reality is we're not bigger than their blueprint. And it's a path that they had together. I'm going to take you to another scenario, just to talk about some of these tragedy passings and the blueprint packs that we have in heaven in order to fulfill those moments, right? So we're going to take a U.S. soldier in this path, and he's sitting in heaven and he's writing his blueprint. He's like, you guys, I got one, family. And they're like, what do you got? And he's like, I'm going to be a Marine. I'm going to go live a life, and I'm going to protect and cherish everything about the United States. And I am going to be a hero for my country. I'm going to take lives so that I can make sure that you all live a safe and free, lifetime. And these guys are passing by him in the back, and they're like, hey, did you say that you were going to be a U.S. Marine? Yeah, I'm going to be a U.S. Marine. Well, because we were thinking that we were going to be in a war in the time that you're planning to live this life. And we would also like to pass or die at the hand of another soldier as heroes for our country. We're not going to be from the U.S. We're going to be from another country. Think you can meet us there on the battlefield? And that U.S. soldier says, absolutely, man, I got you. How many of you? 5? All right, I got you. All 5. And they're like, this is going to be tough on you, though. You're going to have to live with that for the rest of your life. There's going to be moments that you don't even want to talk about, and therapy's not going to help. And nobody's going to understand. And you're going to come back from that like nobody else could ever imagine. I got this. I'm going to be a Marine. I'm writing this moment from the perfection of heaven. I have no idea how terrible, how horrible this moment is going to be. How going into battle and watching my best friends lose their life. How going into battle and taking the lives of others and really questioning, even in moments like, am I going to be okay? Am I going to make it home to my family? Or is this moment even something that I want to be a part of anymore, and I can't take myself out of it because I'm already here, all those fears, all those anxieties, all those things that we're going through in those moments in battle and that we have to live with for the rest of our life. But they're moments that we wrote in heaven as imperfections, and through those imperfections are the most growth. And those men, I meet them on the battlefield and I take each one of their lives just like we wrote. And I have to live with it for the rest of my life. And therapy doesn't help. I can't really talk to about anybody about it, not even the people I love the most. And then I wonder, gosh, what's going to happen to me after I die? Am I going to make it to heaven? The answer is yes. Oh my goodness, yes. Not only are you going to make it to heaven, those men that you took the lives of, and or women, sorry, the men and or women that you had the pacts to take the lives of, they will be lovingly watching over you and a part of your team in heaven from the moment that you take their life until the moment that you arrive in heaven, and they will welcome you home. They will high five you. They will tell you thank you for making them heroes for their country, just as they intended. They will be there and welcome you with all of your family and your loved ones. And that's crazy, right? That's crazy to wrap our heads around. But sometimes it's easier for me to explain that scenario than it is for me to explain murder or the car accident. So there's so many different tragedy passings that we go through here as humans, whether it's accidents or, a fall or whatever it is, right? You guys, there's so many crazy scenarios that could happen for a tragedy passing. But I want to explain this. The millisecond that we pass in body, our spirit is out instantly. There is no delay. There's no layover. There's no limbo. There's no stuck in some place and some medium can't reach them for 6 months. There is no layover when we truly pass. Now, I know that there's near-death experiences, and that's a little bit different than our ultimate passing. But what I am talking about right now is passing from a tragedy. And so the millisecond that we pass in a tragedy, we are at perfect peace. You are filled with more love than you could ever imagine. Every single pain or frustration or any bit of anger that we had, anything that we had in that moment would be lifted. Just picture yourself light and just amazing and full of love. And we get to go home. Heaven is home. It's where we came from. These bodies, they're just temporary here. And we get to go back to the place that we came from in pure perfection. And when I say pure perfection, I mean it. There are no negative thoughts, no negative feelings, no negative emotions. Nothing negative exists in heaven. It's pure love. The reason we search our entire lives in this world, in this life, for love and goodness is because it's where we came from. We yearn for it every single day that we live. We want peace. We want happiness. We want full amounts of money so we don't have to worry about bills. We want enough food. We want enough, all of the things that we yearn for in life. The reason we yearn so much for them is because we have all of that and so much more in heaven. We have beautiful places that we exist in heaven with our loved ones long before we ever came here. So we go back to those places. You have a home in heaven, folks. And you'll remember it vividly the millisecond that you pass, whether it's from a tragedy or whether it's from an illness or no matter what it is that you pass from. So when somebody passes from a tragedy, they are no different in heaven than anybody else that passed any other way, because everyone in heaven is perfect. Imperfections only exist here on earth. And they exist here for a reason. They're meant to. Look around you now. I want you to look at the people in your life, in your circle. Think about the people in your dynamic. How many of them signed up to challenge you? How many of them signed up to teach you how never to be? I have family that's signed up for that job. And I would say that those family members, in a heavenly sense, love me the most. Now, in a human sense, they can fuck off. Sorry, I want nothing to do with them. I take a step back from them. I honor my space. I honor my worth. I've had enough, and I use their lessons to go, you know what? I don't want to be like that. So I'm just going to be over here in my positive space, and they're always welcome on my positive path, but I'll be damned if I'm going to continue to travel their negative. Those folks are growing me so immensely with their challenges that someday when we meet up again in heaven, I will be thankful, though I'm not now, right? I've had enough of it. I would like to just be without those moments, and that'd be great. Why? Because I'm yearning for heaven. I'm yearning for perfection. I'm yearning for that peace and those amazing days. Guess what, folks? Our days are not all supposed to be peaceful here. You might get a little break, And then something else happens, even if it's a blowout on your tire or something stupid like your dang water heater breaks, right? It's always something. We all say that. Why? It's always something because it's meant to be. So tragedy passings, as I go back and go forward, I mean, I know that there's so many questions that you probably have running through your mind, because then we have, on a human sense, we have hatred and anger for the people who brought about those tragedies. And that's very human, and it's meant to be. And it truly is, on a human sense, meant to be, that I want nothing to do with the person that took the life, whether it's accidental or on purpose, of my loved one. But the reality of it is they will high five in heaven and say, job well done. And they'll be amazing, and it'll be okay. And it's just so terribly difficult to get us to wrap our human minds around that, because we think in the human sense. But in the spiritual sense, if you take a step back to spirit, you'll see growth in everything around you. You'll see growth in your job. You'll see growth in your education. You'll see growth in your coworker that pisses you off every day. You'll see growth in not being able to afford something or being able to afford everything. There's growth in everything. Every challenge, everything that we go through in life has grown us spiritually. And as we grow in spirit and we get so amazingly strong, we continue this journey to grow others as well. You're growing others around you. You're supporting their journey. They wrote you into their moments, and you wrote them into yours as well. And so tragedy passings are some of the most difficult things for us to heal from. But I just want you guys to know that you're complete badasses for having a tragedy in your path. I've done readings for people who have tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, like they lose, a father to a car accident, and then they lost their mom to a murder. And I'm going, oh my gosh, like, you guys are crazy to have written all this stuff. And they're like, what do you mean? We wrote this? Yeah. Holy crap. Who the hell was watching over you when you were writing your blueprint? The answer is nobody, because God gives us free will. God watches over it, don't get me wrong, but he gives you free will to write whatever you want. He's like, yeah, go for it. Have fun with that. And somebody's walking behind you in heaven half the time going, don't do that one. I've done that one. It's terrible, and you're like, shut up. If this is what we want to do, it's our story. This is our journey. This is the life that we're going to live this time. And you'll actually really stand up for yourself, because it's your dynamic. It's your journey. It's your growth and the growth of others in your circle. And it'll all make sense someday, even though it doesn't make sense now. But I will say that every single loved one that I have connected with as a medium who has passed from a tragedy, they still have their sass. They still have their sense of humor. They are funny. They're mischievous. They still send amazing signs, just like everybody else in heaven does. I think sometimes our grief is a bit deeper with tragedy passings on a human level. So it's very common to not sense them around as much sometimes, especially at first, while we're trying to walk through that healing process or trying to understand those moments. I really feel like the more we know, the less we fear in every sense. And so when I do a tragedy passing reading, or any other reading for that matter, I do have them walk me through every moment, because I think that knowledge, that knowing those moments from their perspective is so important for our healing. I think one of the biggest things, like, we lost our best friend, Kenny, in a motorcycle accident. And I know that everybody wondered, what were his final moments? How the heck did he wreck? You know what I mean? Like, it was daylight. This guy rode his entire life on a motorcycle, and he built motorcycles for a living, literally. Like, that's what Kenny did. He lived at a bike shop. He came down every morning, had a Budweiser for breakfast with his dog at his side, and he built motorcycles. And he knew them front to back, side to side, inside and out. Like, there's nothing about a motorcycle that Kenny couldn't fix. He could probably fix it with a damn bubble gum wrapper and a piece of gum, and get you back on the road, at least get you home, right? And so finding out in broad daylight that he ran into the back of a flatbed truck at a red light didn't make any sense. But the fact of it is, it didn't need to. Kenny wrote that moment long before he ever came here. And everybody tried to figure it out. Did he fall asleep? Did he get distracted? Was there something? Did somebody come at him and then he was swerving? Everybody wanted to know the how and why. And I think the how and the why really do bring peace. But the reality of it is, even if you don't have the how and why for the tragedy that you've been through with your loved one, I want you to know that there's nothing that you could have done to change that moment, because the answer is they were so amazingly beautiful in that moment that they were graduating to heaven, and nobody's bigger than their blueprint. We can't change that moment. They're growing you and others in ways that none of you would ever grow without that moment. So even if they're passing at the hand of another in that moment, they're growing that person as well as their family in ways that they never would have grown without that moment as well of their loved one taking a life, whether accidental or intentional. Those family members also lose their loved one, not in the same way, but it is an ongoing journey for them as well, to go through the repercussions and the karmic energy of that moment. Hopefully this is kind of making sense for you guys, and I hope it brings some peace to your heart to know that no matter how somebody passes, whether it's illness, whether it's tragedy, even I did a video about suicide. So if you haven't seen that and you are looking for information about what happens to a loved one when they pass from suicide, I did do another video. If you search for Fara, F-A-R-A, Gibson, psychic medium, and the word suicide on YouTube, you'll find that video as well. Because again, I feel like the more we know, the less we fear, and I'm not afraid to talk about the hard subjects. And my love is with each and every one of you. Keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing. And don't forget that. You have 100% track record of getting through everything life has thrown your way to this point. Those are pretty good odds. Keep going. And it'll all make sense when we all get to heaven. I'll high five you when we get there too. Bye, guys.